I live in Garland, and I grew up in Richardson, the two towns that inspired Arlen, Texas. I've seen every episode, and not only does it capture life in Texas perfectly, but of course I noticed a lot of themes that had to do with invisible illness. From dealing with embarrassing medical problems to deep discussions on mental health, it seems that the Hills have seen it all. So, let's talk about it.
Hank, you forgot to flush.
Didn't have to. Didn't do anything.
Oh.
Hey everyone, this is Rachel with Do I Look Sick? I'm super giant pregnant, so I'm wearing my husband's white shirt so that I sort of look like Hank Hill, and I'm in a bathroom because this episode is about bathrooms, and the camera keeps shaking because my dog will not stop leaning against my makeshift tripod. Alright, so this is going to be my first episode talking specifically about King of the Hill, and I plan on doing a lot more after this as well. This episode is called Hank's Unmentionable Problem, having to explain to other people around you what's going on with you medically. It's crazy, it's not always fun, but it is almost always funny. So, let's take a look at Hank's Unmentionable Problem. So the setup here is pretty simple. Hank is having some problems with constipation. His wife Peggy notices and makes an effort to connect with him, help him out, and he wants pretty much nothing to do with it. So we've all been there, right? I don't regret telling my family what was going on with me, but every now and then, it's kind of weird at Thanksgiving when your grandmother asks about the state of your vagina. Isn't that great?
What are you implying?
Well, I thought you were constant.
Where would you get such an idea? That's ridiculous. Anyway, that's not something you should ever know about your father.
Well, it's pretty obvious you were in the bathroom for an hour last night.
No, I wasn't.
Okay, Dad.
Of course, Peggy is still worried about him, and so since he won't talk to her about what's going on, she talks to her friends.
Well, I'm a meteorologist, not a doctor, but if I had to make an educated guess, I'd say he's got polio.
And of course, after Peggy talks to Nancy, Nancy talks to Dale, who talks to Bill, who ends up talking to Hank.
It happens to everyone now and then. There's no reason to be embarrassed.
Maybe I'm not the one who should be embarrassed. Did you ever think of that? Maybe you're going a little too much. Once every 4 or 5 days gives me more free time.
Have you tried squatting? It takes pressure off the lower body.
You know, Hank, I find a ride on the lawnmower helps.
Would you please stop talking about this?
Hey, Hank, you know, I've been thinking about y'all and your dang old bottom and all what's gonna get moving again. I think y'all ought to go jogging and swimming in the water bunch, man. They're gonna be bad having you pooping just like you used to, man. I know it's gonna work.
It helped my aunt after her pregnancy.
I don't know you, do I?
No, you don't.
And here's another thing you probably didn't expect to find in your King of the Hill episode. A bit about medical advice from strangers. Strangers inevitably have the most medical advice, more than any of your family or friends, don't you think? Maybe you just need to cheer up. Maybe you should try exercise. They are so wise. Of course, all of this comes from a well-intentioned place. These people really do want to help Hank. He just doesn't want to talk about it, especially not in this way.
Temperature is a pleasant 70 degrees. And on a more personal note, I want to wish my friend Hank Hill a quick recovery for his embarrassing constipation.
Duh! Peggy, why'd you do this to me? Now everybody knows.
So who's right in this situation? Hank's embarrassed and doesn't want everybody knowing his business. That's a very human feeling that I think we can all relate to. Peggy is worried. She just wants to help. That's another feeling I think that we can all relate to. This is the kind of problem we've all been on both sides of, I think. And it all goes back to that basic argument of, should you be sharing your medical experiences with the people around you, or shouldn't you? And as a blogger, as a health blogger, I actually run into that question a lot because I run into a lot of things like anonymous blogs and anonymous commenters, which obviously on the internet is not that uncommon. I put it on the internet because I wanted to help people, but I don't want it attached to me. And I have always been against that line of thinking. I'm going to go ahead and draw the line in the sand right here. I think you should tell people about your medical problems. I think that opening the conversation is more important than you being embarrassed. And I think that the more you do open the conversation, the less embarrassed you'll be, the less embarrassed the people after you will be, and it'll be the kind of thing we can all just talk about.
Bobby, you know what that is?
So?
What is it?
Laxative.
You're trying to drug me? Good God, that's going too far.
Well, you won't talk to me about it. Now, what if it really is something serious?
And this is something I can relate to even as a healthy person. Whenever my husband or one of my friends is sick, I really want to help them. And it comes from a place of absolute love. You want to do whatever you can because you start worrying and thinking the worst possible thing. But you also have to remember what it's like to be on the illness side of things, how embarrassing it is to ask for help and talk about health problems, because that's just not normal in our culture.
I love you too, but, oh, geez, all right, I'll see a doctor if you just get out and leave me be.
Why are you here, Hanky? This is an old person's doctor.
This is another reason that talking about medical problems is so hard in our modern society. And that is the idea that young people don't need doctors. Young people don't go to the doctor. And admittedly, when I go to the hospital for my checkups, yes, I am usually the youngest one there. By decades. It's not just old people that need the doctor. And it's not even just adults. I mean, maybe you're like me. Maybe you are a 20-something. I'm 25. And you're thinking, Hank is this grown, middle-aged man with like a 10-year-old son. That still counts as old in my book because I am a young 20-something and I definitely don't belong with the doctor. No, you do. Everyone belongs to the doctor.
How long has it been since your last bowel movement?
Well, I usually don't keep track of that kind of thing, but...
5 days, and Hank's usual schedule is every 2 days. Of course, when we were first married, he'd go every day. But then I spoke to his mother, and she said the most interesting thing. She said when he was a teenager, he would be in that bathroom 3 or 4 times a day sometimes.
Peggy!
Please, Mr. Hill, this is helpful. Now, your wife is obviously concerned, and if she's concerned, I'm concerned. I think we'll do a sigmoidoscopy.
See, honey, aren't you glad we're here?
Hi, Mr. Hill. Why don't you go ahead and take off your pants for me, okay?
Now, this might be one of those things that only a sick person would ever say, but I think that this scene is so sweet. And maybe I just think that because I've been Peggy in this scene a lot before, where I can tell you everything that has been going on with my husband, and he doesn't really appreciate that because it's his personal business, and I understand that too. But I always think about when I was younger and I would go to the pediatrician and I wouldn't want to say that I had thrown up or that it hurt when I pee or something. That was just way too embarrassing. And I always appreciated having my mom there to just go straight into detail and not be uncomfortable talking about health. And that just really set a great example for me of not being embarrassed to say when you need help and not being embarrassed to talk about your health issues that are going on, especially with a doctor.
We made it, honey. Quick, 6th floor maternity.
This is a special camera that we use to get an inside view of your colon.
Just kill me now.
So Hank starts to go through some testing, and his family is super supportive and also super interested in everything they're finding out. And the doctor is really kind, really enthusiastic, and really the only person who isn't is Hank. And this makes me think of my own dad. He's a very private person about a lot of things, including his health. And recently he had a heart surgery, and I think it was really hard for him to have so many people around him asking, how are you feeling? What's going on? What did the tests say? How did the surgery go? Some people aren't ready to share that with a big group of people, and that's totally understandable. And I personally have been on both sides of it. For me, dealing with chronic pain became a lot easier when I opened up the discussion with my friends and family about what was going on. And I felt like raising awareness would help other people be able to have the same kinds of conversations. This is why we need more awareness. The discussion still isn't easy. Even when you have support, even when you have people on your side, it's still so hard to talk about illness. I think that you will have better relationships, better friendships, better family relationships, better everything if you could be open about this and honest about your needs. But all that said, I still can't always talk about it. I think that talking about my chronic pain and endometriosis has made it a lot easier to deal with having an incurable illness. And being honest about my needs or being tired when I can't go out and do things has helped my friendships and relationships a lot too. Even though I have an entire blog about talking to other people about your illness and sharing your story and how important that is, not just for you, but for everyone who came before you with this illness and after you with this illness. Even I felt like I couldn't talk about PCOS. I spent a year and a half, almost 2 years, going through infertility treatments, trying to figure out PCOS. A lot of the things in this episode were the reasons I didn't share what I was going through. Medical advice from strangers, having well-meaning family support you in ways that end up being more hurtful than supportive.
How are you holding up, Mrs. Hill?
No, I'm okay. I'm just a little uncomfortable from sitting here for so long.
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break.
Of course, even the most supportive people aren't perfect, and at some point you'll probably feel like nobody understands what you're going through except you.
Now, would that be good for a man who's constipated?
Peggy.
Well, I didn't say it was you.
Is this for your husband?
Yes. And we will also take a quart of your brown rice broth.
And this is familiar territory, isn't it? You try new diets, you try new alternative medicine things like acupuncture and massage.
He sticks needles in your skin and sets them on fire?
Anyone ever try that on me, I'll kick his ass.
And there can be a huge downside to sharing your illness with the people around you. And that is that when you are trying to get better and you don't, or you have a relapse or a treatment doesn't work, that you feel bad about it, not just because you're still sick, but because everyone was hoping that you'd get better. And that's the narrative everybody knows. You go to the doctor, then you get better, and it can be really disappointing when you don't, and you can feel really guilty when you don't, because you feel like maybe it's just you, maybe there's something wrong with you, because everyone else seems to go to the doctor and get better.
I'm sorry, Peg, I let you down. Let you all down.
So at this point, Hank's starting to get really worn down by all these lifestyle changes, and he starts to feel what I see a lot of people online, a lot of my commenters, a lot of people on Twitter will say, is that they don't want to be their illness. They don't want their illness to define their entire life. They don't want their illness to be who they are. And I think a lot of people use that as an excuse to not talk to people about it and maybe to not seek treatment or to stop following treatment, especially lifestyle-based treatment where it involves dieting or living a certain way. Once you've lived with something for a while, you start to think, I can live with this, and I'd really rather not keep doing all this hard stuff that feels like it's making it harder or worse. It seems like the episode's trying to say that you don't need to share everything with everyone around you, which can be true, but would make me disappointed. But the episode is not over.
Oh, Peggy, I'll still be here for a good long while.
I worry.
I know you do.
That you could.
I know, honey. And I'm a lucky son of a gun, I tell you what. To have a woman like you care so much about me, I'm going to be more open, tell you how I'm doing more, and let you in.
Because in the end, despite the embarrassing moments, and despite feeling pressure, and despite people not understanding or giving you the right kind of support, it is always worth it to have people cheering for you and to have them celebrate when you make a breakthrough, even if it's something small. Even if it's something that you never thought you would be openly celebrating with other people, that support is invaluable. There's nothing like it. Yeah, Not bad for King of the Hill, right? I mean, for a show that most people associate with other shows like The Simpsons and Family Guy, this show really does have sort of a more mellow attitude and does talk about serious things, I think, a little bit more often. I was surprised at how many serious subjects they tackled, how many subjects that after I watched an episode, I would go, I could talk about that on the blog, and people would love it. It makes great points, it makes them in a funny way. It's awesome. This is just one episode of the first season, but like I said, I plan on doing more soon. There will probably be kind of a lengthy break because I'm gonna have a human child soon. So hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I hope you keep checking up on the blog. I will try to not make every single post about pregnancy, but it's hard.